Why, hello everyone. Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write for the Chicago Reader, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And Evan and Megan are off this week, so we are joined by our very good friend, the Lady-Wan of Screen Run. Hello, Lady-Wan.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. It is a delight to have you. Do you want to tell us about your podcast? Because you have a podcast that is very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm the Lady-Wan. My pronouns are she, her. And my show that I do is called Screen Run. We have 3 seasons out in completion right now. If you could check those out at screenrun.fun. My co-host and I do a different focus every season. The first season, we did all of Kevin Smith's movies. The second season, we did every film in the Alien series.
Whoa.
And for our 3rd season, we did every John Carpenter movie. So we have a lot of things to talk about.
Wow. Yes, we do. And the new release that the Lady-Wan and I are going to talk about today is Elevator Game, and we'll get to that in a minute because I want to talk about one of the movies in your John Carpenter series. I want to talk about John Carpenter's Vampires, if you have a moment. Because
We do have a moment.
Yeah, I should mention that if you only listen to one episode of Screen Run, and you should listen to them all, listen to the Vampires episode, because the Lady-Wan and her co-host Chris and their guest Jason from Binge Movies are beside themselves with like rancor and disgust about the quality of this movie. And I happen to agree with you. I think this movie is fucking piss poor. I mean, it's amazing. You know?
You had to try to miss as hard as he did on this one.
I mean, one of the things you all mention is, okay, the brief summary for those of you who haven't seen John Carpenter's Vampires. Yes, John Carpenter's Vampires on screen. He didn't write it, by the way.
No.
It's based on a book called Vampires $. The S is a $. And it has another one of those, you know, we have, Chekhov's Maximilian Schell in this one. And I don't know who invented Chekhov's gun. I guess Chekhov did. Or who invented the phrase, I should say. But I've co-opted it for everything. So let me just, James Woods, boo. Remember when he was in movies? James Woods and Daniel Baldwin lead this group of vampire slayers. They call themselves Slayers, and they're in the American Southwest, and they just go into what they call nests and kill all the vampires, and they're always looking for a master. If there's a master vampire of that nest, and they don't, in the first one they go into, they don't find a master, and it turns out he's underground elsewhere. But then they slay all these vampires, which I kind of feel like they sort of get lucky. I feel like, you know, if the vampires attacked them en masse, it might have been a little bit different. But the vampires kind of attack them one by one.
Yes,
and it's
they
like,
wait their turn.
And it's like, this is not staged very well. And this is a confined space, but the way you're shooting it makes it feel even more confined. And John Carpenter is like well known for shooting in, you know, anamorphic widescreen. So I don't know why these shots look so... I mean, I guess maybe they're supposed to feel claustrophobic for the effect of, the vampires are closing in on us. I don't know. But there is so much posturing in this movie, like macho bullshit posturing.
Yeah.
There's like a scene right before they enter that first nest in the first 5 minutes of the movie where they've all like left their trucks with their shiny weapons, as you all mentioned on Screen Run. And that ridiculous looking crossbow that he has, that James Woods has. But then there's a shot where it cuts to like a wide shot of them all standing like in formation in front of the nest, which is like an old house, old farmhouse or whatever. And then it cuts to the side shot where they dolly in, but the dolly waits to start like an extra 3 seconds. And it's almost like, it's really bizarre. And there are shots like that all throughout the movie, and just dissolves upon dissolves upon. I've never seen a movie with so many dissolves that was made after 1946. I mean, it's like...
I don't think you've watched Ghosts of Mars then.
I have seen Ghosts of Mars, but I don't remember a thing about it.
There's dissolves. Yeah,
man.
It's honestly, it's not just that it's shot poorly, it's that it's edited so poorly. Like it's almost not edited. like you know that it is. You know that it is, but you're like, this was your first pass. You were going to go back and tighten some of this up. No.
And they were like, no, if we tighten it up, it's not going to be an hour and 45 minutes. It's going to be an hour and 23 minutes. And we need, contractually, we have to deliver 95 minutes or more.
Yeah.
There's the old man blues rock music.
Yes.
That, I mean.
There's James Woods in his very clean jeans, just stomping around the desert looking like he just bought those jeans.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that is so true.
Clean. They're so clean and they're like stiff.
Yeah. And everybody else ends up like covered in dirt and blood and shit. And James Woods finally gets some mud and blood in his face at the end. But I'm pretty sure once they, he gets the young priest untethers him from the cross that he's been roped to, not nailed to.
Yeah.
That then his jeans are a little messed up. But I mean, this is the most bizarre movie. You've got Cheryl Lee, who I think is one of the most underrated performers. Like, if you ever watch her in, what's that fucking Beatles movie called? See, I shouldn't do this. I know that. Backbeat. It's called Backbeat. She plays Astrid Kutcher. Kircher? The woman who Stu Sutcliffe, the first Beatles bassist, was, with, and he left the band, but they couldn't play bass, whatever. She's great as, Laura on Twin Peaks and in Fire Walk with Me. And I've seen her in some other stuff that, of course, I can't remember right now where she's really good. And she's got that, she does that kind of twitching, I'm turning into a vampire thing. Because, of course, she gets bit on the inner thigh, which I guess is supposed to simulate, orgasms, sort of. But it looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
Not her reaction so much, but the vampire's reaction.
The vampire's got a weird approach, I'll say.
Yeah. And also, for a guy who can fly, he certainly seems to have a lot of trouble getting places.
Yeah. It's a slow-moving chase throughout.
Yeah. Like, he's following them down a road, and he's flying, and he gets on the back of their truck, and then Daniel Baldwin shoots him in the head, and that makes him fall off. But then the next time you see him, he jumps on top of a fucking train to go where he needs to go to find this cross that's going to make him be able to walk in the daylight because, of course, he was turned into a vampire by an exorcism that went bad in the 14th century. I don't know why. I mean, I know that the Catholic Church has records that old, but I don't know why two priests in the American Southwest and a cardinal would know that. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, it also doesn't make any sense that if they finish the ritual that he will be able to do that. Because, is God allowing him to be a vampire? What? Who's allowing this?
This is my whole question with. So Maximilian Schell plays the. And by the way, if that's your blah blah blah, Daniel Baldwin, Cheryl Lee, and Maximilian Schell, maybe just make him a regular fucking character, act. Put him fifth on the bill. And Maximilian Schell doesn't cut it, but. He's a cardinal. He's been running this Slayers, that is this group of Slayers that's been killing these vampires for the church. And it's just it's another one of those things where it's he's in one scene and he was a big European movie star name.
Yeah.
Why is he only in this one scene? What's he going to... So when he shows up at the end, having actually been the one... No surprise. He's the one who's...
there he is.
He's told the vampire where this cross that they needs is, and he's like, I've started to doubt my faith because I've never witnessed any miracles, and now I'm going to get eternal life. And it's like, dude, don't you remember fucking Sunday school? If you're holy and you don't sin too much, you get eternal life after you die.
Yeah, that's your teaching. That's what you what?
Is the difference that he can see the vampires, so he knows that is real? But if you can see the vampires and he was turned a vampire by the Catholic Church, then the Catholic Church's teachings are real. Jesus fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. If you know that the magic did something, I'm calling religion magic in this case, but if you know that it did something, apologies to the Catholics, question mark.
No, please.
But yeah, if you know that it kind of worked, then you know that it's for real, right? So isn't that your confirmation of faith? And that
Isn't that your miracle?
yeah, like
I mean,
I don't know. There are pieces of interesting, unique vampire ideas in the movie. All of them are from the book, and none of them are John Carpenter's. Like,
did you read the book?
No, God, no. But I read a summary.
Oh, okay.
No, it's the interesting part from what I was reading about the book, not in the book. I watch movies, I don't read. Was
Me
sort
too.
of
It's
the
okay.
the corporatizing of vampire slaying, of like the Catholic Church as a business and vampire slaying as a business, and like that it's kind of like examining capitalism, which like fucking John Carpenter should be a great person to examine capitalism using
They
the metaphor
live.
of vampires. Do it.
Yeah.
And instead it's just a basic, boring, dusty dad movie. And I mean that with like the most disrespect, because like dad movie is sometimes good, but like not in this case. It's so frustrating because again, like there are, if somebody, whether this was his idea or this was a studio being like, we got to make this movie because we paid all this money for this book, so let's make a vampire movie. Just to whiff so hard is really the most frustrating part of it all. Is like, this was right up his alley and he just shit the bed.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to put it. Like, imagine that he's like on set, it's day 27, and he wakes up and he's had an accident. He's like, oh, partied too hard last night. John Carpenter's vampires. Is it going to shit the bed like I did? I know this is a horrible thing to say, considering I actually have a lot of respect for his early work. But the thing that kind of blew me away, and I did not remember this because I'd seen this once before. I didn't remember this at all, is the blatant fucking misogyny that is in this movie from start to finish. It is unreal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It sucks.
And it's a vampire movie. It all works out.
Yeah, it's just oh man, it's just the 1998 of it all is like, we hate women. Like it's just
Well, did you I don't know
miserable.
if you tortured yourself at the end credits, but in the end credits in the cast list, there's a group called Hookers with like 10 names of performers, and it's like,
Yeah.
I know we didn't call them sex workers in 1998, but still hookers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I mean, my notes literally say misogynistic trash. That is in my notes from when I watched it. And just everything about Cheryl Lee's character made me angry. Everything that they did with the only other women you ever see are sex workers, like, and they are, as you described, just listed as a gaggle of hookers. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they've got, like, from the movie's perspective, is they're just like, yeah, this is what women are for. It sucks.
Yeah. He even calls Cheryl Lee's character right after she gets bitten a piece of shit. And it's like, weren't you going to have sex with her like 15 minutes ago?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you were paying for it, but still.
Yeah. 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 It's awful. And then I'm supposed to, I guess, believe that Cheryl Lee's character and Daniel Baldwin are in love when he is with her. He's slapping her around, but then also being like, it's okay. I'm here. You're safe. And it's like, no, you were the one who was just beating her up. She's not
it's bizarre.
safe. It's terrible. It's gross.
Yeah. Well, hey, listeners, didn't mean to bring you down. If you were ever going to watch John Carpenter's entire body of work, maybe think twice about watching vampires. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the gore effects, some of them are good. Like when the one guy gets split in half, that's not bad. But like Gregory Sierra gets a shotgun to the chin in the first priest, and you don't see it. You just see the gray matter and the blood hit the ceiling. But then when James Woods goes back to like gather up the bodies and bury them, his head's totally intact. Like, what the fuck? Have you never fired a shotgun? Good Lord.
Yeah. It's It's not it. It's not anything you wanted it to be.
Yeah. Oh, and the last thing I'm going to say, but I'm not going to torture anybody anymore, is James Woods, that fixation his character has with whether or not the young priest is, quote, getting wood, unquote, from getting beaten up by James Woods and spearing vampires. And it's just like, it's really ugly. And, hey, I should have watched Christine instead.
You should have. It's a good time.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, that's what Screen Run is, but a lot more. But the movies they love, they are just as effusive in their love as they are in their hate of vampires.
Yes.
Like you guys really had a good time with The Fog. Mm-hmm. You all seem to enjoy Escape from L.A. Just because it was kind of nice to revisit Snake Plissken.
Yes.
That movie is truly bizarre, though. And of course, Halloween. We love Halloween. The Thing. Your episode on The Thing, I thought was fascinating because you guys thought about things that I hadn't thought about before. And I've seen The Thing. I watch it twice a year. So.
Okay.
Yeah. It never occurred to me that the flower-looking thing is actually dogs' tongues and teeth.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so gross.
It's really cool. There's highs and lows in the season, but I hope that we made every single episode enjoyable, even when we hated the movie. And your co-host Megan makes an appearance on the season. She joined us to talk about Starman. So give that one a listen. Spoiler piece heads. What do you call your people?
I usually call them spoiler peeps, but
that's so good. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Talk about 2004 references. I mean,
you know what? I've personally been trying to bring back the use of the word hella. So I am all for using
you
peeps.
say that on one of the episodes, and I was like, "You're not from Northern California. You're not allowed to use that word."
I'm doing it. I've used it at work. I use it in my personal life. I use it in podcasting. I'm determined. I really am.
Well, I am hella glad that we had this opportunity to talk about John Carpenter's Vampires. This is the only time I'll ever use the word hella, by the way, just so you all know. But so please, everyone, go check out the Lady-Wan's podcast. It is so much fun. And even though vampires, they disliked it so much, it's a great episode because the outsized reactions are priceless and so fun.
It's a fun one.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the actual new movie we are going to be talking about. It's called Elevator Game. Let me give you the rundown here. It's directed by Rebecca McKendry, written by Travis, I'm assuming this is pronounced Seppala, and David Ian McKendry. Don't know if that person is related to the director. Probably, maybe not. Who knows? So here's your one-sentence IMDb summary. And I'm going to throw in the punctuation here because this sentence is not written very well. So, Victor Borga punctuation. Supernatural horror, based on the eponymous online phenomenon. Is it an online phenomenon, the Elevator Game? Have you heard of this?
I didn't know it, but I'm not Gen Z, so I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. A ritual conducted in an elevator, you don't say. In which players attempt to travel to another dimension using a set of rules that can be found online. That's partly true. I don't think anybody goes into the elevator trying to go to the other dimension. It seems to me it's more like this is
like
marketing
passing
people
the test.
Yeah,
right?
It's like you're passing the test of So the game is like this. You go into the elevator, you do a certain number of floors. When you hit the 5th floor, before the doors open, you're supposed to close your eyes and not speak because there's this ghost, apparently, who comes into the elevator, and if you speak to her or look at her, she will, quote, rip you to pieces, unquote. And let me tell you, that comes true.
She does what she says she'll do.
This is definitely for you people who are maybe a little squeamish out there. This is a hard R.
Yeah.
But I feel like, well, let's talk about the story. There's these group of 5, let's call them young people because they're supposed to be just out of high school, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like, are they in college? Are they doing YouTube instead of college? Which I want to say that like dismissively, but like people do that. These youths.
People do
they
YouTube
do that.
and have successful channels.
Yeah,
So
they seem to have an office for their YouTube channel.
yeah, but they're also in like financial trouble. Like the guy who
Their
runs
one sponsor.
Yeah, so there's 5 of them. 2 of them are always on camera. One of them runs the cameras. The third one does audio, camera, and he's on screen. His name's Matty, as they call him. Of course, they call him fucking Matty. And then the tall, goofy, gangly guy is like he's their executive producer, manager. But they've all known each other since high school. They try to debunk scary things like internet lore, stuff like that. And they hear about the elevator game from this guy who shows up and the boss dude says, "Oh, I've hired an intern." And it's like, gee, I wonder how this is going to come around. And so the intern, they don't have an idea for the next show. And the intern's like, well, what about if we do the elevator game? I should mention the movie opens with a young woman playing the elevator game and meeting her presumed demise. Although it happens off screen, so did she meet her demise? I don't know. You do see a hint of the ghost, and she's relatively creepy looking, I have to say.
Yeah.
Some good makeup effects on that. Anyway, so they do the elevator game. One of the guys, as it turns out, like slept with this woman. Now, this is where it gets kind of creepy right from the beginning, because her brother says she was a freshman. And it's like, whoa.
So
she's a freshman
14.
in college?
No, she's in high school.
Okay.
So she's like 14, maybe 15 if her birthday's late. I don't know. Like, that's not okay.
It was really creepy. And then the guy who is a member of the team, who's one of the on-camera people who did, I think his name's Chris. He is like an unrepentant asshole about it.
He's a dick.
Yeah. They play the elevator game and they do the whole thing. Chris opens his eyes when the ghost comes in. Nobody else in the elevator does. They stick to the rules. And then the elevator starts going to the 10th floor. And I guess the 10th floor, if you play the game correctly, opens up to a different dimension, which is nebulous. Also, when they finally get there, also nebulous. So they all end up becoming victims of the ghost because the camera operator, who's like the young, bubbly blonde, who's adulting and she thinks it sucks. And the money guy she accidentally leaves a camera. Now this is one of the things that drove me nuts. She's put a GoPro in the, ceiling of the elevator and it can capture the entire elevator, but she accidentally left it up there. And then she needs the taller guy to go get it for her. And she goes with him, but it's like, how did you get it up there in the first place? Did you put it up there yourself? There's like no mention. So did she use a stepladder? I mean, like, why is she bringing the guy with them?
I think like she is just like, I don't want to go by myself. And that's the end of it. She's like, I don't want to go alone. And so she guilts him into going with her because she doesn't want to go to this building by herself. But that's it. But like we see her put the camera up there. She just kind of like jumps a little bit and like sticks it on the wall. And like,
oh, see, I forgot or maybe I looked away to take some notes.
Yeah.
I didn't see her do that.
She puts it up there. She's just like, I don't want to go by myself. You're going to make me go alone. Like that's it.
Bats
she
her
just guilts
eyelashes.
him. Yeah. Like, come on. I don't want to go by myself. And he's like, fine, I'll go with you. And then,
okay, fair enough.
I didn't expect them to die.
Neither did
right
I.
Then. I was like, what the hell?
I didn't even realize they were playing the elevator game until she pressed the second floor for the second time, because you go to the second floor twice in the elevator game. And I'm like, oh. And by the way, we should mention this, while this is going on, the girl from the beginning who has disappeared and the brother who is the intern, he has played the elevator game correctly, kept his eyes shut, kept his mouth shut, gone to the 10th floor, and he is in the red world, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the movie's real shortcomings, is that they do not explore this at all. It like, he leaves the building, which looks just like it's the same
It's
area.
the same building. It's the
same building,
red.
except everything's red and there's a big X in the sky. And I when I first saw that, I'm like, now this could be cool.
Yeah.
But then nothing happens. Like the fifth
he
floor
gets
woman
scared.
is there.
And then he's like, I'm getting out of here.
The fifth floor woman is there, and she starts doing the contorting body thing, which is a big deal in horror movies in the last decade.
Yeah.
And she doesn't move very fast because he gets back into the building and he's waiting for the elevator to come up. And it's while the blonde camera operator girl and the tall guy, whose names I can't remember because let's just call them all mincemeat 1 through 5. And so he hides behind a chair in the lobby of the 10th floor. I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure she's going to see you there if she comes through the door. This is kind of like in Scary Movie when Anna Faris is like, hey, Ghostface, I can see you behind the chair, you know? But just as I guess that the camera operator and the other guy don't really take the game seriously because when they get to the 5th floor, she looks out into the hallway and he's got his eyes open too. And then the 5th floor woman
daring the ghost to come get them.
Yeah.
And the boy does it.
Yeah. The ghost goes through the back of the tall guy's neck. And I don't know if you see his Adam's apple, but maybe, I don't know, but he's super dead. Yeah. And then he starts in one of the most bizarre stagings I've ever seen in any movie. The blonde woman she's getting thrown back and forth but it looks like she's just like running from one side of the elevator to the other. That's what the staging looks like. It's really bizarre.
That whole thing caught me off guard. I did not expect them to go that. I fully expected like one by one we're going to lose people because horror movie. And as they were like having us meet all these characters, I was like, these YouTubers are dicks. I'm not going to feel bad when they die. But I didn't expect it with the camera woman and producer man. I didn't think that was going to happen then. And it happens quite brutally. And I was like, well, damn. And it was pretty intense. But I feel like when the asshole YouTuber who took advantage of a 14 or 15-year-old girl, when he gets killed, that's when I kind of got thrown for a second because it's exactly the way things happen in Stranger Things from the last season. It's literally exactly the same.
I've never seen Stranger Things. Did they play the elevator game in Stranger Things?
They don't play the elevator game. However, this last season, the way the baddie of the season gets you is you rise up into the air and then your bones are all broken individually while you're hovering in the air, which is literally exactly what happens to this kid. And it's very frightening to watch because it happens slowly and it's usually while somebody else is watching that person like floating in the air and having all of their bones broken individually.
It's fucking crazy. It
is. But when it happens to him, I was like, oh, Stranger Things. And then that led me into, also Stranger Things, this mirror dimension and reaching through and all these white orbs kind of glowing. And I was like, well, now all I can see is everything that it has in common with that. And instead of like enjoying the uniqueness of that, I was just like, well, I've seen this. Because that's what they keep doing. That's what happened in the first season. I think the first and second and the last one is they keep going into a sort of the upside down, the other world. And it looks the same as our world. It's just all dark and gloomy and blue in there. Versus in this movie, it's all red. And it's the same world, but it's red and everything's a bit different and quiet and spooky. And then there's the whole them kind of crossing from the spooky dimension to reality. And I was just like, I want to be freaked out by this. I mean, I was honestly freaked out by a lot of it, but I wanted to be like, oh, wow, that's so interesting and original, except for I've literally been watching it for years on a Netflix show. So that was kind of a bummer. But I don't think I would have.
Now I want to watch Stranger Things instead.
That last season it's for me, I didn't love it at first, the last season, like after we eventually get there. But by the end of it, I was like, dang, this is some messed up shit. So it does horror well. It does that. But it just kind of, because the kill was the same, it led me to start connecting all the dots of other similarities. If that hadn't happened, I don't think I would immediately be like, oh, all of this is quite similar. But that really kind of triggered it in my mind. But I agree with you, like the whole red dimension, the red world is sort of that's where the story should be, right? Like that's.
You would think so.
But he leaves. He leaves as quick as like a normal reaction, not a horror movie situation. He's like, "Oh,
Right.
this is scary," and pieces out. That's just a realistic response to a terrifying place. But like in a horror movie, I want to watch you go further into the dark, scary world. But they don't do that. So.
Yeah, I don't know how well the Insidious series does what they do, because, but they spend a lot of time in the other world. You know, like a lot of time.
Yeah,
and you get to know it, and you get to know how it operates. And some of it's effective and some of it's kind of stupid, but, and the last movie, just skip it. But, I don't know, this just was like, it felt like a lot of different components coming together that didn't quite work as a whole, like individual, like I like the idea of, I like the idea of the elevator game itself. It's it's like the Bloody Mary in the mirror thing.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I have done, and nothing happened unless it happens tonight while I'm talking about this. It was like 30 years ago, though. So, she's taking her time. And so that the elevator game thing is kind of cool. I didn't really need to know the lore, how it actually happened. That's kind of like every time you get to the lore in these things, it's kind of like, well.
Then it just becomes a real, like when you make it a real thing that you're wanting me to believe happened, then I'm just like, oh, okay. So now it's just like real life tragedy and not, spooky, scary mysticism. And like, we don't understand, no one knows where the fifth floor woman came from. That's way scarier than like, it was hazing.
Sure.
It's like, oh, all right, bummer.
It turns out it was a sorority prank gone awry, and this woman was killed in the elevator shaft, and she got tangled up. It truly sounds like a horrific way to go.
Oh, it's real gross.
Yeah.
There's that's one thing I will say for all the jump scares in this. The jump scare happens and then it gets grosser.
Yeah.
like it's not like a movie where they'll just be like, jump scare, and then we cut away and then you're just like, ooh, you got me. No, it's jump scare and then now watch as it gets worse.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a moment like when the two the camera woman and the producer guy have died in the elevator. And by the way, the bodies like disappeared. I guess the what's her face, fifth floor woman takes the bodies with her and then like has a mop and a bucket because there's no blood anywhere.
Yeah, she's thorough.
She was actually a custodian. That was how she was putting herself through college before she went into the sorority prank room. Anyway, so that they disappear. And then the three who are left alive, that guy, Maddie, that I mentioned before, another host whose name I can't remember. And she's if the movie has a main character, I think it's her, even more than the brother.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I felt like it was sort of 1A, 1B with the two of them of like who was they were the least awful.
Right.
So
Chloe. Her name's Chloe.
There it is. Yeah. And then the movie is also sort of like, oh, do they like each other maybe? But just a little. Not so much that I found it annoying. So that was good restraint. And
they tease that, but so the brother, Chloe, who's the other host, and then Maddie, who's a host / camera operator, they all end up in their office, and the fifth floor woman is in the corner, and she does her contortion thing, and Maddie has done all the salt around, in the ring, and they're all standing inside of it. Now, I knew that the fifth floor woman was going to be like, fuck this salt, you know, and which she is, and she kills Maddie, and it's gross. It's some of the practical, I should say a lot of the effects in this are practical, especially like the close-up blood and gore stuff. And it was gross. And so then Chris, I can't remember the brother's name. I don't know if it is Chris. I just said that. But the brother, let's call him the brother.
Yeah, brother.
The brother and Chloe run to the building where the elevator is because they think that if they do the elevator game successfully, they will close the elevator, the fifth floor woman's like way to get into the dimension. But then they do it correctly and they don't. And Chloe's like, oh my God, she's changing the rules. And it's like, well, that's convenient. I mean, it's kind of like, don't say I'll be right back in a horror movie. It's like, what do you mean you're changing the rules? Come on. So, Yeah, that kind of bugged me. So anyway, though, now this is a moment that I was like, huh. So they go back down to the 5th floor. The two remain, Maddie's dead. He's been chomped, kind of like the 5th floor woman is a vampire. And Chloe and the brother are in the elevator. They're playing the game again. They realize that they're not going to be able to close the door to the dimension. And they go back down to the 5th floor. And instead of, I guess Chloe thinks she's going to reason with the 5th floor woman. I don't know exactly. But she mutters something. Maybe I think she says Allison, because that was the woman's name, if I remember. I think she says the woman's name, and then she opens her eyes, and much like in R.L. Stine's 1994, she dies on screen in... I'm kind of surprised they didn't linger on it a little longer, because it's fucking gross.
It really is.
Like her eye fills up with blood in a close-up, and then they cut to a side shot where you kind of see the beginnings of her head exploding. But the thing that's really gross about it is there's really good sound effects right there.
Yes.
Like, I don't know who was doing the sound work on this movie. And like that moment, it's really the only piece of sound I remember other than the bones creaking. And boy, does it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Chris, who didn't open his eyes and didn't talk to the 5th floor woman, ends up on the 10th floor. The door opens and he sees his sister, but it's the 5th floor woman pretending. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out he's disappeared. And then somebody else is going, like, years later.
Yes.
Where all the 5 of them disappeared, like the woman who's in the elevator doesn't say how many years ago it was, but she's like, they disappeared.
Yeah.
And then she starts to play the game, but then the 5th floor woman presses the closed door button. And so I guess she's still in this. Does anybody who goes into this elevator get fucked? I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I don't. Well, okay. So that's also a question I had about the general story of it. Is they present it as if this is a game you can play in any elevator with at least 10 floors.
Right.
But then also somehow in the movie this happened in this building, and I was like, you just happened to be what? Pick a lane. Just Is that the haunted elevator? Because it seems like it is, but everything they say seems to imply it could be any old elevator as long as we have at least 10 floors. Yeah. Because I'd just be staying out of that elevator.
And if you play it when there's only like 8 floors, is the 5th floor woman like, fuck? Is she just is she pissed off and she's like,
she can't
I'll get you next time, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This building's too short. Yeah. It's not clear, but I still did jump when we get the creepy hand. I jumped a bunch during this. This is gross and squishy and visceral.
Yeah, I don't know how good it is because it has a lot of pretty big plot holes. I mean, we've discussed a couple of them.
Yeah, and they start off being very unlikable, so that makes it hard to care. Yeah. But I will say, overall, I found the humor ever so slightly increasing throughout the movie in quality. Not like, oh my gosh, this is so funny, but like the beginning jokes, I was like, and by the end of it, I was like,
it was bad news.
Like they got me to a, so that was an improvement. But I mean, I would say for this being like, this is a Gen Z horror movie, right? Like they're YouTubers. Everybody's live streaming this this is a Gen Z horror story. And for a non-Gen Z person, I did not find that to be overwhelmingly annoying. So I wasn't like, oh, I can't watch this movie because I'm not one of these Zoomers. Like, no, it was just like, it was enough of it to just like accept of like, this is how culture has changed and this is just a next generation. You're not going to have just kids in the woods at camp anymore. Everybody's got a phone all the time. So you've got to shift how you tell scary stories, and you've got to use cameras and use internet lore instead of stories that someone passed down. Like it's got to shift. So I think it does a decent job of shifting to a modern storytelling without kind of alienating those of us who remember just going out in the woods and nobody could find you. So like that's a positive I'd say for it. And overall, I personally really liked that nobody gets out alive. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I liked that. I was like, oh, everybody's screwed.
I mean, I had actually kind of come to like Chloe by the end of the movie.
I know.
And so when she got hers, I was kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
I didn't like the brother. He was a douchebag. But
He was a little creepy, but
yeah, like why does he know who his sister has slept with?
yeah, icky. Very, very icky. But I will say I did like that it was a big brother who was upset about somebody taking advantage of his sister or hurting his sister and trying to find where she is rather than like a boyfriend who was like, my girlfriend got lost in the portal. Like,
Right.
I'm glad it was at least like, okay, let's have like a familial relationship instead of something more, lazy.
Yeah.
So
Well, and you know what? It's interesting that you say that because when the team at the beginning of the movie finds out that the on-camera guy Chris took advantage of this little kid because she was,
yes,
they're genuinely horrified. They're like,
Yeah.
"How could you do that to like someone like a freshman in high school? You creep."
yeah,
Because when I was in high school, seniors dated freshmen all the time, and
Yeah.
no one fucking said shit.
Yeah.
You know, so.
they're immediately like, you took advantage of your position on the show and how young she is. Like they're immediately
Yeah.
like pointing out exactly why what he did was not okay. And there's
Yeah.
none of this like, well, I was 18, she was 15, like it's not that big of a deal. Like, no, within the context of the movie, they're like, what you did was inappropriate.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has some of that going on for it. But overall, I just kind of felt like, we got too much lore, but then you don't explore it enough. And some of the scares are good. I think the makeup effects were pretty good.
Yeah.
The fifth floor woman herself, I don't know if you ever actually see her entire face at once.
I don't think so. I mean, kind of upside down, but like
Yeah.
in shadow, like you don't ever get like a good look at her.
Yeah. And she's angry. Well, and with good reason, I might add. I mean, that's a pretty horrible way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be upset.
Yeah. Yeah. So upset that I manifested myself as a ghost. And now here, this is the other thing though. So she dies in the elevator shaft because
Yeah.
she's left in there over the weekend and she starts going crazy because of its confined space.
Yeah.
And then the elevator hits her. By the way, whoever wrote this doesn't know that most elevators have like a space underneath them on the ground floor so you can do repair work and not get crushed, but okay. But she gets tangled up in the gears and the what do you call it's not a rope.
Cables?
The cables. Thank you. Jesus, I'm so dumb today. She gets tangled up and dies horribly, and I guess that's why her body's so twisted up. But it's like, what? Like, how is she choosing to haunt I don't understand why she's choosing to haunt the elevator. Because now you've explained it to me how she died, and she haunts the elevator. But it's like you were saying earlier, Lady-Wan, like if you don't know anything about her, she's just there, so much fucking scarier.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like this story that they're telling of like, oh, we looked it up and it was this sorority hazing. That wasn't that long ago. So she's a fairly recent ghost. But the elevator game is a story of internet lore and like, oh, but is it an old story or is it not an old story? Did this just happen or did is it every elevator or is it just this building? All answers are true. Just,
Very convenient.
all of the above. Yeah. Whatever
Yeah.
it needs to be for this scene, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What if somebody is playing the elevator game in a different building across town at the same time? Can she get you both?
Well, apparently she can kind of be in two places at once because she's up there with the brother on the 10th floor pretending to be the sister while the other two are in the elevator playing the elevator game and
Yeah.
he's hiding behind the chair in the red world.
Yeah.
And then they do the game and the 5th floor woman kills them and then the elevator comes up and he gets in there and she's like, peace out, brother. You got away this time. But she's there still on the 10th floor. You can see her through the window. So
Yeah. And I don't understand why she summoned out of the 5th floor when she was smushed at the bottom. What's the significance of
and
the
why
fifth
she
floor?
lives on the 10th, and to get to the red world, it's through the 10th floor.
I don't know.
Is it because it's 5 times 2? I mean, like, check my math, but I don't I don't get it.
No.
So what I'm saying is there are, if you think about it too much, you're probably going to, end up like the two of us being like, but wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Just let it happen. Just let it happen. Don't think too hard. Just let it happen.
Let it wash over you. Like an elevator falling on your skull.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to mention is the director who we covered another one of her movies. I can't find it. Oh well, next time. I am looking on her IMDb page though, and she is married to the co-writer here. So
okay.
there you go. Yeah. So I don't know. Would you recommend this overall? I mean, you would? Okay.
I would, and I actually did today. Yeah. Just because we're coming up on spooky season, and it's something new to check out. And if you want a gross movie, it's the right amount of gross without it being just like a gross out film.
Yeah, it's not like Saw.
Right. It's not about the grossness, but the effects are pretty cool, and like you said, like good practical, and that's a nice change of pace. And yeah, I'd recommend it. I'm not going to be like, make sure you see this right away, but like, if you're one of those people who's like, I like to watch scary movies all throughout October, throw this on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? And I remembered the name of the other movie that we watched. It's called Glorious, and the reason I think we watched it is because J.K. Simmons has a prominent role in it, but it's a voice role. Oh. And I should mention, I hated that movie.
Oh no!
Yeah, but whatever. I hate movies that Francis Ford Coppola has directed, but I still like the conversation. So. Yeah, I can't not. I mean, it's kind of in this middle zone for me, Yeah. If we're going by the Letterboxd star rating system, it's like 2.5 out of 5 because some of the stuff works.
Yeah.
But it's like if you if you don't think about it at all, 3.5. You start thinking about it, 2.5.
Yeah. Oh, I'm right with you. I think like Letterboxd style, I'd probably give this a 3. And then, I don't know, maybe if I'd like eaten a gummy first, probably like a 3.5. But I didn't.
You mean a gummy with some wacky tobacco in it?
Yeah, I mean like a gummy from Colorado or something.
Right.
Hypothetically, just purely hypothetical. That's not at all what's on my nightstand.
No transporting across state lines, nothing like that.
No, it's not like I forgot it was in my bag.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think though this would be like a decent one to watch, like with like some friends for October. If you're gonna carve some pumpkins and throw on a movie. Yeah.
There you go.
It's gross. Yeah.
It definitely has its moments.
I jumped.
That head exploding with the, and you don't even see the entire head explode. You see like the beginning of the explosion. And I think it's a combination of what you do see, the hiddenness of it, and like I said, the sound design in that moment.
Yeah.
It's like they spent all of their money on the practical effects because they didn't spend it on locations.
No.
Anyway, do you have any closing thoughts on Elevator Game?
Just honestly, I am most pleased with how I went from being like, ugh, fucking Gen Z to like, oh, all right, youths. They didn't make me feel like I wasn't allowed to watch the movie, like I was too old for it. So,
okay,
I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's good. I didn't even think about the whole because I watch a lot of YouTube, so I wasn't fazed by like anything that they were doing. I was just like, oh yeah, they're YouTubers, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when they were like, you took advantage of that girl, I was kind of like, well, yeah, of course you did, you dick. So because it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, I have children now, so,
Yeah.
you know, I kind of think about those things more.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I couldn't not recommend this. I wouldn't say, like, you know, see it tomorrow. But
Right.
if you happen to have a Shudder subscription, it comes out today, Friday, September 15th.
Yeah.
You should, like, hey, man, it's 90 minutes of some blood and guts.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, that one's going to stay with me. I'm not really too squeamish. I'm more squeamish than I used to be, but I'm still not too squeamish. But that one kind of stuck with me as I watched this movie like 4 days ago, and I'm still like, yuck.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Okay, gang. So that, like I said, that comes out on Shudder today. If you're listening to this on Friday, September 15th, when it comes out. If you're not, then it's already out. Whatever. Enjoy. Rent Shudder. Get a Shudder subscription.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you would call it. Anyway, that does it for this episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. I want to again thank you, Lady-Wan, for being our guest this week. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again. It was fun to come back.
It's a delight to have you. I also want to thank. It is. I mean, I say things like that, and people think I'm being like flippant or something, but no, it's a delight to have you. You know, like I tell people all the time, "Oh, this was wonderful," and I don't all the time. This is wonderful, and they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes." People use the word "wonderful." Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway, I also wanted to thank our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you so much for being our sponsor piece. Yay!
Yay! Big fan of Heather's.
Yeah. So anyway, Lady-Wan, why don't you tell everybody again real quick where they can find you, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at the Lady-Wan. You can find my show, Screen Run. We're at, oh my gosh, what's our Twitter handle? I don't know. You can find it off my page. I don't need to know what it is, but it's screenrun.fun is our website.
That's the best web address of all time.
I know. Like I honestly, I pushed for it. And I'm proud of it every time I say it. So screenrun.fun. All of our episodes are there. And I'm going to be, you can find me on another episode of Binge Movies coming up later this fall. So I'll be around there. And, I'll be around. So.
Okay, cool.
That's it.
Well, now we know where to find you.
Yeah.
Like we said, this movie, Elevator Game, is on Shudder. I want to thank our editor, our wonderful editor, Otto Klemmer. Thank you, Otto, for making us sound great every week. You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you can get podcasts. Our website is spoilerpiece.com. If you want to follow us on all your social medias, we're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook and everywhere else. We're at Spoiler Piece, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. If you want to email us and say, the Lady-Wan's great, thanks for having her on, we're spoilerpiece@gmail.com. You can give us a call at 862-21-PEACE, leave us a voicemail, and tell us why it doesn't matter what the lore is. It's still gross. The Elevator Game is still scary. And if you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. You can also do that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. If you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. This week, the Lady-Wan and I talk about Michael Mann's 2004 film Collateral, where Tom Cruise plays the bad guy. And we had a really fun conversation about that. And that's it. My name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. Phone critics. Like anybody uses phones anymore. Film Critics Association. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and I think Blue Sky at Dave Sees Movies. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.